Hello everyone, my name is Alice and welcome back to NetLab. Today we're going to be focusing on Lab 3.1.2.6, Windows installation via Hyper-V. To begin, make sure that you have your PDF opened and click on the link to go to the NetLab website and log in. Select New Lab Reservation, Schedule Lab for myself, select the class that you are in this case CIS190C, Cisco IT Essentials V8, and then look for Lab 3.1.2.6. In this case, it's the first one. Because I want to start right away, I'm going to click directly below this red line. You cannot select a time that is above the red line. If you want to take the lab later, simply select any time on this chart that works for you. I'm going to give myself some extra time because I'm instructing. Make sure to give yourself more time than you think you need. Because I want to start the lab right away, and I've scheduled it as such, I'm going to see a green button that says Enter Lab. However, if you scheduled your lab to start later, you won't see this. If you don't see the Enter Lab button yet, simply wait until your scheduled time has begun and then refresh the page. Since I want to start now, I'm going to click on Enter Lab. Hyper-V is a Windows software component that enables virtual machines to be run on your device. However, just enabling Hyper-V itself does not automatically mean you will be able to run a virtual machine. Your CPU must also support virtualization technology. It goes under different names for each CPU manufacturer, but it will most likely go under AMD-V for AMD processors and VT-X for Intel processors. You must make sure that your CPU supports VT-X or AMD-V in order to be able to enable Hyper-V and use it to virtualize a computer. We don't have to worry about that right now though, because we're using a NetLab virtual machine which already has all of that requisite information configured. To begin, we want to click on Win10-OS. Simply click or hit the spacebar to enter the login prompt, and then enter in capital NDG lowercase labpass 123 exclamation mark. Then hit enter. Once you have entered, select the search box in the bottom left corner of the screen and type in Hyper-V Manager. Then hit enter or click on the suggested result. Now that we're in, we want to click New in the right-hand panel and then select Virtual Machine. This gives you a very brief overview of what exactly creating a new virtual machine entails. We can select Next once we're finished reading it. We're going to name our virtual machine Win-10. And for where we want to store the virtual machine, we are going to select Store the virtual machine in a different location. Then we will select Browse. It will open up the File Select menu, at which point you want to go to Local Second Disk, right-click, go to New, and Folder. Type in Windows 10, then hit Enter. Make sure that it is selected, like so, and then click Select Folder. You may now click Next. Virtual machines come in one of two generations. Generation 1 virtual machines are backwards compatible with both 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems, and it has greater hardware compatibility. Generation 2 supports newer virtualization features and is based on UEFI instead of Generation 1's BIOS firmware. However, it does not support 32-bit operating systems, only 64. We want to create a Generation 1 machine, so make sure that the radio button is selected and then click Next. We are now about to configure the amount of memory or RAM that our virtual machine is going to have to work with. According to the instructions, we want to increase it to 4096 megabytes, or roughly 4 gigabytes. Make sure that Use Dynamic Memory is unchecked. Then, click Next. Select Default Switch, and then Next again. The virtual hard disk is how the virtual machine is going to store the Windows operating system files that will be created when we install Windows. Because Windows 10 is a fairly large operating system, we want to give it a fair amount of space. In this case, 25 gigabytes. If you are installing Linux on a virtual machine, you can decrease that by a fair amount, probably 10 to 15 gigabytes. Once you are done, select Next. We want to give our virtual machine its installation media now instead of later. So we want to select the radio button that says Install an operating system from a bootable CD or DVD-ROM. Because we don't have a physical CD or DVD drive with which to insert installation media, instead we're going to use an image file or .iso file. Once we have selected it, we now must click Browse. Navigate to this PC, Local Disk, and Toolbox. You should see a folder called ISOs. Open it and select Windows 10. Once you are done, click Next. Review your options to make sure that they match what the instructions have told you to do. Once you've done that, click Finish. You'll now see that the Windows 10 virtual machine is listed alongside Android and Ubuntu Server. Since we want to get started configuring right away, we can go to Windows 10, right-click on it, and select Settings. We want to increase the number of processors that this machine will have because otherwise it will most likely be intolerably slow. A regular Windows 10 install notably does not support single-core machines, so we want to increase it to 2. Once we've done that, we can select Apply, and then OK. Now we can start the Windows 10 machine. To do that, simply double-click it, wait for it to launch, and select Start. Now, our Windows 10 virtual machine is starting up. It will boot into installation media instead of a regular Windows 10 operating system, since we only gave it installation media. Leave these as default, and then select Next. Select Install Now, and wait for it to finish setup. When it says Activate Windows, because this is a Windows 10 machine, you can select I don't have a product key. However, in earlier versions of Windows, this option is not present. So if you are installing it, you need to have a valid product key, or simply go without. We want to install Windows 10 Pro, and then click Next. It should soon pop up a software license agreement. Normally, it's recommended that you read this, but since we don't really have the time for that, you can just select I accept the license terms. I mean, I'm sure you do anyway, but I'm guilty of the same thing. We want to do a custom Windows-only install, because we don't have a prior Windows operating system that we would want to upgrade to Windows 10 on this machine. Make sure that Drive 0 unallocated space, 25 gigabytes, is selected, and then click Next. Now, the Windows Install dialog shall continue. You must wait for it to finish before continuing. Now that it's finished installing, it'll have to restart. You can let it restart after the requisite amount of time, or you can select Restart Now. When it says press any key to boot from CD or DVD, do not press anything. Just wait for it to continue the boot process normally. If it reboots once or twice more, do not be alarmed. Now you must begin with personalizing and configuring the installation. To start, make sure that your region is correct, or correct it if it isn't, and then select Yes. There we go, that should be a little better. Make sure the keyboard layout is correct, and then select Yes. We don't want to add a second keyboard layout, so we'll simply select Skip. We do not have an internet connection to connect to, so instead, we simply go down to the bottom left corner and select I don't have internet. It will want you to create a Microsoft account, however, we don't want to do that, and we don't have internet access, so simply select Continue with Limited Setup. We're going to create a local account named sysadmin, and then we're going to use the same password that we used to log into our first Windows 10 machine, ndg labpass123!! You will have to type it one more time to make sure. Then you will have to select security questions. What was your first pet's name? I'll just put Brownie, like the treat. What's the name of the city where you were born? can do Middlesex, Illinois. And then what was your childhood nickname? Cool guy. Nobody tell my childhood friends, they'd ridicule me. At the Do More Across Devices with Activity History option, select No. Also select Decline for the Digital Assistant offer. Make sure you read the privacy settings and then select Accept to continue. But if you're like me, I'd recommend turning all of them off anyway, just because Windows tracks you far too much for me to be comfortable with it. Then select Accept. We've now moved on to the next part of the configuration. Make sure to adjust the display configuration to 800 by 600 pixels. Then select Connect. Now that that's done, you will have to log in with a password that you created earlier. We have now finished the lab once it is logged in. Make sure to answer any questions that are in the document, and then you are done. Good luck.